Hi dear friends, my name is Professor Dr. Mahul Brahma. I am a professor and dean at School of Media and Communications at Adamas University and a fellow at Batspa University, UK. So today my lecture is on corporate storytelling. It's a very critical area where I thought that I will spend some time on to explain the various facets of corporate storytelling. So let me go to the very basic of storytelling. So for telling a story, you need a story. So for a story, you need a protagonist. For a story, you need the various elements of a narrative, the rise, the fall, the conflict. And similarly, you have to bring in all those narrative elements, at least some critical ones, to a story that you want to tell in the corporate world. So as a corporate storyteller, it is very important to first understand the story yourself. And then, just like a storyteller, you have to also understand the mind of the audience, the mind of the viewers. The story has to have a connect, a hook, so that the story is engaging to the audience. So the protagonist needs to be identified. Now, it is not necessary that in every corporate the protagonist has to be the managing director of the company. It is very important that the protagonist is chosen so that the story can be told most efficiently. Okay. So in my series on in my talk on CSR communication, I will delve in a more detailed way into how the beneficiary becomes the protagonist of the story and not the chairman or the managing director of the company. Because the story is most effectively told from the perspective of the beneficiary in case of CSR communication. So, coming back to this, so the corporate story needs to be told, protagonist needs to be identified. The story of the protagonist needs to be created in such a way that the messaging is clear. Okay. A very important element of narrative is something called a Chekhov's gun. And for corporate storytelling, Chekhov's gun is very important. So for example, if in your story you are saying that your managing director, say, plays golf, I'm a golfer, so golf comes to my reference the top of my mind. So if you want to share your in that story that your managing director plays golf, then there has to be a relevance why you are showing that element. So basically, it comes from this story that if in a set, in a drama, if a gun is shown on the wall, that gun should be used at some point of time in the drama. That gun cannot be just hanging there without any impact. So therefore, every element that you choose to tell your story, so you are, say, talking about your philanthropy of the managing director. There you cannot add the golf part. There you have to, again, the protagonist needs to shift to the beneficiaries, and how your MD is basically steadily supporting these people and transforming their lives. So every element that you introduce in your story is very important, and that there has to be a Chekhov's gun to eliminate any extra element in your story. So, for example, you want to talk about the struggle of your entrepreneur who started a startup and made it into $1 million company or $1 billion company, into a unicorn. So there again, you have to talk about the humble beginning, and you have to talk about that inflection point where the transformation happens. And you have to talk about the initial failures. Until and unless you talk about the initial failures, you will not be able to glorify the success at the end of your story. So there at the end of your story, there may be a shot of your MD playing golf, but not at the beginning. That there you can show the garage, there you can show, he was not good in studies and all that. It's called, there was a term that in my alma, IIM Calcutta, we used to use, it's called the diplomat's pornography. Basically, you share your stories of failure to accentuate the success, and that has a connect. The connect is there because people who are watching your story can identify and can think that if somebody can go from such a low stature to such a great height, there is hope for us. And there's a hook. And that's the most critical element in the story. So, determine the protagonist. The protagonist not necessarily has to be the managing director of the company. Determine the narrative of the story. Have points of conflict, have points of tension, and how you're relieved from that tension in the end. Use Chekhov's gun ruthlessly. Do not have any extra element in your story. It is very critical that no extra element is there, otherwise it loses the plot. So corporate storytelling is also, like any other storytelling. It's like making a film. You have to engage your audience. You have to connect with your audience. Find a common space, a common ground, a relevance. And that will make you a wonderful storyteller. And that is the art and science of corporate storytelling. Thank you.